Well, good morning everybody and welcome to Open the Book. Once again, we're filming from my garden and this week we're thinking about another story that happened after Jesus had risen from the dead. Now, if you bumped into one of your friends in the supermarket or in the park or walking down the street, you'd probably recognise them, wouldn't you? Even after lockdown, when we haven't seen each other for a long time, you probably would recognise them. Well, it's a little bit harder, isn't it, to see people when they're wearing a mask and try and recognise those people who you think you might recognise. But today's story is about two people who met up with one of their best friends and didn't recognise him. A bit odd. But let's open the book and find out why they didn't recognise him in this story called On the Road to Emmaus. Talking and walking, walking and talking, the two men travelled from Jerusalem to Emmaus. It was a long journey on foot, and because the two men were followers of Jesus, there was plenty to talk about, like the rumour that some of his friends had seen him alive again. So talking and walking, walking and talking, they made their way. Then a stranger joined them.
I hear you talking. I hear you walking. You sound excited. What are you talking about?
We're talking about Jesus. Jesus was a prophet sent from God. He did amazing things, and many of us thought he was a special one God promised to save us from our enemies.
But the religious leaders sentenced him to death. The Romans killed him on a cross, and all our hopes died with him.
That was 3 days ago, but this morning some of the women who knew him went to visit his tomb, and his body wasn't there. Better still, an angel told them that Jesus wasn't dead anymore, that he was alive again.
The stranger listened carefully, and then, talking and walking, walking and talking, he told the two men what he thought.
Isn't that what the prophet said would happen to the special one? If this Jesus died and came to life again, then surely that shows that he's the special one that you've been waiting for.
At last, talking and walking, walking and talking, they came to Emmaus.
It's late. Why don't you stay with us here overnight?
And so, talking and walking, walking and talking, they prepared a simple meal.
Do you mind if I give thanks for the food?
Of course not, said the two men. And so, taking and breaking the bread, the stranger bowed his head and prayed. And that's when the two men knew. The stranger, the man on the road, the one they'd been talking and walking and walking and talking with all afternoon, wasn't a stranger after all. It was Jesus, alive again. But before they could say a thing, Jesus disappeared. He simply wasn't there anymore, and they were left alone to wonder.
We need to tell someone about this.
So they hurried off back to Jerusalem, not talking, not walking, but running and jumping for joy. Well, I hope you like that story. It's one of my favourite stories in the Bible, how Jesus appeared to his friends. So once again, thank you to the Open the Book team. It was quite challenging because Jim couldn't be there at the same time as the other ladies because he had something else to do. So I had to try and put that together. And I hope you saw my cat who made another appearance in that story. So great story, wasn't it? Can you imagine how excited those friends would have been when they realised that they had actually been with Jesus and the rumours were true? He really was alive after all. I wonder if you can remember the last time you had some really good news to share. I want to close your eyes for a moment and remember how excited you were. Did you want to rush off and tell all your friends? That's exactly what those two friends did. They went rushing off, didn't they? Jumping for joy. I'm going to say a prayer, and if you want to make it your prayer, you can say Amen at the end with me. Dear God, thank you that the friends in our story today were able to see for themselves that Jesus was alive. Thank you that they shared this exciting news with their friends. Help us to share any good news that we hear today. Amen. Well, that's the end of this week's Open the Book. Have a good day, everybody, today. And try and share some good news with people, because I think it's important, isn't it? So often we share bad news, but it's really good to share good news. We'll see you next week with Open the Book.